this is this is about your working life. So you've touched on, what you do and that. Tell me, so you are a subcontractor, self-employed air conditioning engineer.
I
So
am.
what was your journey to being self-employed engineer, how you got there and why you got there and what your jobs between there? Because there may be people now, especially at the moment with the job market being as it is, with this, if anyone's listening to this post COVID, I'm not sure where you've been, but obviously with everything that's happening around the world and with jobs and recruitment low, and people are going to be thinking about what to do. So share your story of your work
Okay.
and how you got to where you are.
Right. So, well, obviously, my ideal job when I was young was to be a footballer. But
Yep.
obviously, if I couldn't do that, I had
Yeah.
a passion for animals. I'd love to have been a vet or work at a zoo, worked at a zoo. And I did apply for the zoos around this area when I was
Yeah.
about 16,
I didn't know
17.
you
Oh,
applied.
every zoo I could get to nearest to me. Well, I'd say about four zoos around this
Okay.
area I applied for to work. I think I was about 16. I think it might have been 17, but I didn't have my driving license, so that's the only
Yeah.
reason none of them took me on.
Okay.
I was gutted. I was absolutely gutted. I didn't want to apply for
Yeah.
anything else. When I got let down with that, I was like, well, I can't be a vet because I'm not brainy enough. So I was like, that dream's crushed. Um, but like I think 16 was my first. I'd say job. I did it for a little while, not very long.
Yeah.
I think my mum wanted me out of the house, so she asked a friend of the family and got me into
Yeah.
scaffolding.
Yeah.
To be honest, mate, for 16 years old, the money was good.
Yeah.
You
That
know,
must have been hard.
oh mate, yeah, it is a proper grafting job.
Yeah.
You know, and like it's a laugh, and like it's after work they all go to the pub and get drunk, and I'm 16, and they're just chucking drinks at me and
Yeah. Yeah.
dirty drinks, and then the next day they're like, "Oh, we got to get back to work," and they're all fine, and there's me hanging like a little 16-year-old.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, it
The
was.
good thing is, though, you're built like a rugby player, so it's
Not anymore, mate.
disclaimer. He's
I've nearly
not.
lost a
He's
stone.
not.
You cheeky.
Yeah, yeah. Shut up, you.
Yeah, you sod. But yeah, first job was scaffolding. I reckon fucking have been much more. It must have been just over 6 months. It was just like a cash in hand job as a
Yeah,
kid,
yeah,
helping someone out. They just put me wherever they could. Like one weekend, because I worked mostly obviously weekends because I think I was still at school. I think just before I left school, and
yeah,
I was like, right, where am I going to be working this weekend? So he come and picked me up, took me to the yard, and it was like, I need you to. I think it was diesel. I think it was diesel or petrol. I can't remember what it was. I don't. I might be saying it's completely wrong,
yeah.
but it's we had to do the fixings, like to loosen them up.
What do
It's
you mean?
stat like my clothes. Like you had to dip them in like a big tub of like, I think it was petrol or diesel. I can't remember what it was. It
Yeah,
smelled like petrol, and
yeah,
then so it'd loosen them up. So it's like sort of like WD-40, but it was something different.
yeah,
And I remember I thought I'll wear me Echo tracksuit back when I was 16. And yeah,
yeah.
totally ruined it. I got home and I had to chuck it in the bin. It was just covered and I couldn't get the smell out and it was just stained and I was pretty
Yeah.
gutted. But yeah, I reckon about 6 months, the last day I did, I remember I was over in Deal and I remember picking up, they had like I think it's 21-foot poles. And I picked it
Yeah.
up and my back went. At 16, I was like, oh my God, I can't move. So he put me on a train and made me go home. And that was the last time I
Brilliant.
did it. I didn't bother ringing him after that to do it
Nah, I
again.
thought,
I was
yeah,
like, nah, I'm not doing this. Don't like it.
think I'm done. I think I'm
Yeah, I don't want to do my back at 16.
no, no.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd be concerned pick one up and drop it on a car. That would be my
Well,
concern.
it was on a site, so there was no cars. But like you said, a 16-year-old lifting one of them up, and you've got to try and lift it up straight. The weight on them, mate, is unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd rather you than me, mate. I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, what was next
This
for
is the
Mitchell
one
and
you
his
know. This is the one you
journey?
love.
This is
Um,
brilliant. This
so
is
I went, I
brilliant.
went and done labouring.
Yeah.
Again, my mum wanted me out of the house, so she.
I remember. Do you know what? I remember her being like, "You gotta get a job."
Oh mate, all the
Not
time.
like that.
She,
She didn't sound like that,
that she
but
did to me.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, very aggressive.
yeah, really aggressive. Yeah, so she was like, I think it's my dad's cousin's husband or something like that. And I went
Yeah.
and worked for him. I hated it, mate. I honestly hated it.
What was it? Like just
Labouring.
labouring.
Yeah, it was labouring,
Yeah.
like mucking up, wheelbarrowing loads of like cement up and down. It was just so boring. And I
Yeah.
remember one day this is the story you want to hear, don't you? You're waiting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one day I always had to get dropped off at Whitfield, and I used to live at Maxton. So my
Yeah.
mum used to drive me there every morning, and I sat there at the bus stop by the fish and chip shop at Whitfield, and I was sitting there. I looked at the watch. I was like, "Oh, he's half an hour late." I was like, "I'll give him another 10 minutes, and I'll ring him." Anyway, so I left it for an hour, rung him, nothing. So I rang my mum, said, "Look, he hasn't rung me. He's not answering his phone. What should I do?" She's like, "Just sit there. Don't be so impatient. He'll be there." I'm like,
It's
"Oh,
like an hour
yeah."
in,
He's like,
like
I was like, "Yeah, okay, no worries." So I sat
yeah,
there.
yeah,
And,
sorry, mum.
yeah, sorry, so sorry I rung you. Sorry. You left your 16-year-old son at Whitfield. It's fine. I'm sorry. Um, so then, it was 2 hours later, and I was like, I rang him, and he finally answered. I was like, "Are you picking me up today? Are we working today?" He's like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'll be there in a minute. I'll be there in 10." I'm like, "This is a joke." So my mum rang me back. I was like, "Yeah, he's on his way." She goes, "See, you just had to wait." I was like, "I've been 2 hours,
Yeah.
mum." So
And he's
anyway,
been a great at timekeeping, don't
yeah,
get me
yeah.
wrong.
So anyway, he turned up half an hour later. So I literally got in, and he's like, "So you're right?" I was like, "Not really, mate." He was like, "Why?" I was like, "I've been sat here for 2.5 hours."
Yeah.
And he said, "Why don't you fuck off?" And I'm like, "Oh, sorry." I thought he was joking, so I laughed. I was like, "What?" He said, "Go on, get out my van." I was like, "Is this a joke?" He's like, "No, go on, you want to talk to me? Get out my van." So I literally got in his van, jumped out the other side, and just stood at the side of the road again. And that was it. It was my last day there.
What did you had to phone your mum back
Yeah, I
up?
rang my mum. She was like, "What's going on?" I said, "He's just chucked me out the van." She goes, "What have you done?" I was like, "I just said I wasn't happy because he's left it so long." And so, honestly, when she picked me up, she was so angry, right? And I was like, "I haven't done nothing wrong. What have I done wrong?" I got home. She went, "You're getting straight on that computer and finding yourself another job." I was like, "Yeah, no worries."
Scott, I'm so sorry, mum.
Yeah, I was like, "I did nothing wrong. I just said I wasn't happy. You left me for 2.5 hours."
So after the illustrious labouring career, what was next?
I went into work doing sort of like, well, I tried everything: panel beating, painting.
Oh,
Uh,
do you know what? Do you know what? I remember, I remember when I used to
yeah,
joke to him, but like, I think you're going to be like the best panel beater in the world,
that's
aren't you?
it.
And stuff
That's
like
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
smashed
yeah.
it.
So I went into that, and to be honest, mate, the job was like, just for me,
Panel
it
beating,
was
this
a
is it?
laugh. It was just a laugh because I had my uncle was up there and his friends and that, and they were just. It was just felt like a big joke every time I went to work.
Mm.
It was never serious, and there was always a laugh. There were so many funny things that happened, and
Yeah.
to be honest, I was 17 at the time when I started, and I never really took it up serious.
Do I remember a story about someone being naked in a shower?
Oh, mate, naked. The amount of times someone got naked, it was unbelievable. Like, I've got some stories that would not be allowed to go out on air, but
No, no, no. Anyway.
yeah,
So yeah, panel beating.
but yeah, done that. Did a bit of painting. And I remember I nearly got sacked at one
Mm.
Christmas because
Happy Christmas.
over Christmas there was 3 days you had to go in. I think it was like 27th, 28th, 29th. And if you didn't book it in, then you had to go in. And I didn't have any holiday left, so
Yeah.
they told me not to go in. But I thought, oh, I'll be all right. I just won't ring in and tell them I'm not going in. I just won't go in. They're not going to miss me. Yeah, that didn't go down well, mate.
No, don't sound it,
No,
mate, to be honest.
I feel I got a written warning. At the
Yeah.
meeting, they said next time you are sacked. So, yeah, I sort of got to a stage where I tried everything, and I was
Yeah.
like, this isn't really for me.
Yeah.
You know, it was just, and the money was terrible. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is boring. And then I remember one day, I think I was at work or at home, I must have got home from work, and the old man said, "Oh, the company that he does work for, self-employed,
Mm.
are looking for a mate, like an apprentice, doing air
Yeah.
conditioning." And I was like, "Yeah, all right, I'll give it a go." And it was with like a friend of the family, so I sort of knew him already.
Yeah.
So, and that's how I started. Really, I
I
just
mean
started
I
with him.
mean, your record, your track record of friends of the family with like
Yeah, yeah,
things so
yeah. I think
funny.
mum and dad lost a lot of friends.
They're like, "No, don't send him. Don't send
Yeah.
him. What are you doing,
Well,
Martin?"
he did say that, like, just don't fuck this up, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
We've
Chance.
given you
One
3
chance.
different jobs, and every time you've fucked it up.
Yeah, yeah.
But,
So, yeah, go on.
yeah, so I started there. So what it was, so I've done it 1 year with a job, you know, I started off, it was early mornings, mate, like really early mornings. I was getting picked up a lot, something like 20 to 4.
Yeah. That
No, no,
sounds
no,
awful.
no, it might have been 20 to 5. It was about 4:30, I think it was, sorry. And I used to get picked up
Yeah.
and do that. A lot of the work was in London. And, you know, I did like the job, but I didn't like the mornings. And
Yeah.
I was only 18 at the time, so I was still quite young. And I was sometimes, me and you were going out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like
Yeah.
that time at the kitty wake, and we went out. And then the next morning, I had to go to work, and I was so hungover.
Yeah.
And I had to sleep in the van for half the day.
Yeah, lit on souls. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Oh, yeah, yeah. But I remember, yeah. So after my first year, they asked me if I wanted to go through college and get me my MVQ and my FGAS, and
Yeah.
so I went and done that, and that was a big challenge for me
Mm.
because obviously I struggled at school.
Yeah.
I struggled, you know, as soon as I was so scared when I was at college. Luckily, when I
Yeah, yeah.
first went, I went with someone that I knew. He was on the course as well. He was doing it for free. And so it was good, but he left, and then I was on my own, and I panicked. You know,
Can I ask a quick question?
yeah, go on.
You said about that you was, scared to go to college and what have you.
Yeah.
Going back to your younger years about being shy um around new people, did you feel there was a kind of not an anxiety, but like, oh god, there's going to be complete new people. It's going to be like going back to school. Was there that?
It wasn't the people. It was the fact that the work.
Yeah,
It was the work because I do struggle, and I will admit it. You know, I struggle with like English and stuff like that, and I'm thinking,
yeah,
how am I going to pass this?
yeah,
But you know, for me, it was a massive achievement because I'd done it. You know, 2 years at
yeah.
college, done it, passed my tests, got my paperwork, and but to be honest, I nearly got chucked out of college, and I nearly got sacked from Cool Air from it. Because, but what it was,
Another family member. You
yeah,
know what I mean?
nearly upset someone else. But
Yeah,
because I was so scared to go to college because I was worried about what I had to do. I used to
yeah.
bunk off the Mondays because they used to give me the Mondays off to go to college, and I used to say, "Yeah, yeah, I'm going to college." Get paid for it, but I never used to go to college. I used to just stay at
Didn't you just
home.
come to see me sometimes?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, and
Yeah, gee.
the college rang up my work and was like, "We haven't seen him in like a month and a half. You know,
Yeah.
what's going on?" So my boss rang me up and was like, "Oh, hello, Mitch, you all right?" I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "How's college going anyway?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, fine." Because you know, you getting on all right. I was like, "Yeah, yeah." He goes, "That's funny because I've had a phone call saying you ain't been there for a month and a half." And I was like, "Oh no!" And he's like, "What's going on, mate?" And that's when I told him. I just told him. I said, "Look, this is me being honest. I struggle. I panicked. I didn't do it." And because I told the truth and what had happened, he sort of let me off and was like, "Look,
Yeah,
if you're struggling, talk to them. They'll help you, or we can help you. We can put stuff in place for you." But in the end, I
yeah,
was like, "Well, I've just got to do it." So I just went to
yeah.
college, done it, and yeah, luckily I got through the 2 years. But it was, I know it doesn't sound much of an achievement, but for me, it was massive. And even
No,
my
it's huge.
family knew it as a big achievement.
I think that it's an important message to put out there in general for people who do bunk off college, people who are worried about their education, worried about learning, that actually, if you stick at it or actually communicate, talk to someone and
Yeah,
tell them how.
don't be don't be scared to talk to someone. If you're struggling, it doesn't matter. You're not going to get told off if you're struggling. People
No,
are there to help.
because if it weren't for you having that conversation and reaching out, God knows what you'd be doing now.
Yeah,
Do you know what I mean?
and
So,
tell the truth because
yeah,
if I didn't tell him the truth and just said, "Oh, I just didn't want to go," because I was scared to tell him that I was a thicko,
yeah,
then
yeah.
I'd have probably lost my job.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So you moved into being self-employed.
Well, yeah, it took a while. I was with Cool Air for about 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, 5 years I was with them, and then when I just, it was just I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I wanted to do the same job but do something different.
Yeah.
And I was qualified. They still hadn't put me out on my own, and I was like, "Look, I need to go out on my own. I want to be an
Yeah.
engineer, not stay as a mate. This ain't me."
So it
So
kind of moves,
sorry.
sorry, I was just gonna say it kind of moves on to um the next kind of phase of like, or kind of my questions in terms of like an outside influence that affected your working life where you felt you were kind of spiraling out of control a bit, um like life was taking over and you needed to make a change, um and obviously regarding looking at going out on your own and your reasoning behind going out on your own. So do
Well,
you mind just
yeah, because there is a bigger one further down the line when I was self-employed, but the one for I'd say at Cool Air, I
mm,
was as a mate, I was working for this bloke, and we did not get on. We did not
yeah,
get on at all. And I used to wake up so stressed in the mornings to go to work. I remember
mm,
every morning I'd go in, brush my teeth, wash my face and that, and every time I'd wash my face, I'd have a nosebleed. Every
jeez.
morning I'd have a nosebleed because I was so stressed because I didn't like working with him.
I remember that you having those nosebleeds you were
And
saying.
I was on a job one day up by Wembley, and yeah, so we had a bit of an argument, and he was trying to blame me for something. Even though he's the engineer, he tried to blame it on the mate, and I was so angry. I was literally so
Yeah,
angry, and I was like, I'm gonna smack him. So I walked away, and I rang up the office, and I said, "Oh, you've got to put me with someone else." They was like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Either you put me with someone else, or I'm gonna knock him out."
yeah,
She said, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, I was just about to hit him, but I rung you first." And she was like, "Right, okay, let me sort it out. Give me 2 minutes." And yeah,
yeah,
it got changed with that. But I didn't enjoy it. And I was like, "Do you know what? I don't need this. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try out on my own. I know what I'm doing now." And that's what I
yeah,
did. And it all started off. This bloke said that he would try me out. When I saw him, done a day's work with him to show him what I was like, and he was like, "Yeah, I've got all this work. I'll keep you busy." Blah 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 blah. Done a month work
yeah,
with him to finish a job, and he was like, "So I ain't got any more work for you." And
yeah.
I was like, and that was a big learning curve for me. I now know don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Okay.
Because self-employed, make sure you've got a range of people you work for. Because if you rely on one person, yeah, they could screw you over. Then you are stuck. At the time, it wasn't too bad because we had our own house, but we just had our little boy.
Mm,
But we wanted to save some money and to buy a house, so we actually moved in with my missus' nan. Well,
yeah,
she's a lovely lady, honestly, absolute lovely lady. So we went and stayed with her, and at the time we were staying there when it happened, so I wasn't having to pay rent or a mortgage or bills. She was, obviously I'd give her some money to stay there, but I wasn't paying out a lot of money, so it wasn't such of a, I wasn't panicking so much when he let me
yes,
go. But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's one thing I did learn. I think, right, from now on, don't rely on one person.
Spread yourself a
And it
bit.
made me more determined. I thought, I can do this. I don't. I was so angry that he'd let me down. I thought, no, do you know what?
Yeah,
I'm going to show you. And that's why I cracked on and carried on with it. Because there's so many times I could have just left doing air conditioning and gone and done something else. But I didn't want
yeah,
to because
yeah,
I enjoyed the job and I wanted to prove to people that I could do it.
yeah, yeah. It's. I think it's interesting. Like, I think again, it's really good advice that don't put your eggs in one basket, and you know, look at different options that are available to you. Um, so so you're now obviously subcontractor.
Hmm.
Um,
I was when I went with that first bloke.
yeah. So moving on,
Yes.
um, just from that. So this is kind of a little bit called the man behind the smile. So tell me when an outside influence affected your working life and an example when you felt that things were spiraling out of control.
It was after that guy. I then went for another guy called Paul. He was great. I
Yeah,
honestly can't fault him. He gave me a van. He looked after me. Always had work. But the people that worked for him, I used to go out and have drinks with them on a Friday. Most
yeah,
Fridays. And it used to just get silly. We'd get drunk and I'd have to go home. But one
Yeah.
Friday, it just got out of control. He had the bloke who I was working with, his mate, come out with his girlfriend and had a few drinks. And then he got a bit silly, and this bloke, his mate, threatened his girlfriend. So I stepped in to
Yeah.
stop him, and he swung at me, and then I obviously retaliated. And all I can remember is coming round, and I was covered in blood, and he was on the floor,
Yeah.
and I was obviously screaming. So obviously I ran, thinking, what the hell's going on? Got home, didn't think
Yeah.
anything of it, thought, it was, they picked him up. He was obviously nothing. He wasn't like really bad, but he was covered.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it, and went back to work. But the bloke who I stuck up for his girlfriend at work had a go at me for doing it,
Yeah.
for helping his missus from getting beaten up. But sort of just shrugged that off. But then about 2, 3 weeks later, I got a phone call from a policeman. What, I didn't think it was a policeman at first. I thought it was the guys winding me up because it's called
Yeah.
PC Carter. I thought, yeah, that's a bit bloody
Yeah.
obvious.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had to go down to the station. They said I had to go to court. They
Yeah.
told me that I was going to have 6 weeks in prison. But
Yeah.
then they come up with an idea that I'd write a statement, and if the guy signed it and accepted it, then I wouldn't have to go to prison. And luckily, he didn't, because I had my second child on the way,
Yeah.
which was so stressful. Like, it was over Christmas, and I couldn't enjoy Christmas. I couldn't sleep because I didn't know what was going
No.
to happen to me. And then they come to it. I got community service and a massive fine.
Yeah.
Done my time, and that's when I knew I needed to get out. I couldn't
How did
stay
that
there.
affect? How did that affect your work? Going through
I,
something like that.
I couldn't concentrate. You're stressing. You don't know what's happening. And obviously, because it's the people you work with and it's one of his friends, you couldn't say anything. I was told, do not say anything about it. So I'm going to work. They're like, "Oh, you've been, have you been in touch with the police?"
Yeah.
I couldn't say anything to him because he's friends with him, so we could go back to the other guy and say, "This is what's happening."
Yeah. So you
So
didn't know who to
I
trust.
was like on eggshells. I was treading on eggshells, and I was like, I don't want this. This is, I'm not this kind of person. I don't need these
Yeah.
people. Don't get me wrong. Paul, absolute great bloke, helped me out through everything. When I was going through bad times with other things, he was there.
Yeah.
He helped me out, but I knew I had to get out.
Yeah.
So I thought, right, I'm going to go self-employed. Self-employed anyway, but I want to go out on my own and find my own work and look at proper companies and get work off them. And that's what I did.
Yeah. Yeah. Probably the best thing you've done,
Yeah,
like within your work, like to go and do that.
but I did.
So, but you,
When I did that, I obviously at the time I had Paul gave me a mate called Andy. I'm not gonna lie,
yeah.
he's probably the funniest guy I've ever met. Sorry, Watts, but he is
So this is,
the funniest guy I've
yeah,
ever
yeah.
met.
Oh, great.
Honestly, you'll
So this
never meet a
actually,
guy like it.
this moves on to. Thanks for sharing that story, by the way, just about that period of your life, which, like, I remember at the time was terrible. And you was my best man at my wedding.
Oh
And
yeah,
we didn't know whether he was going to
I had
actually
to.
be there with.
Yeah, that's it. Because it was you got married on the Saturday, do I believe? Is that right? Or the Sunday?
A
I can't
Saturday
remember. Was
night.
it Saturday you got
Yeah.
married? And because I had community service on the Sunday, and
Yeah.
I had to go to the court and ask if I could have the day off, that day off for your wedding. And obviously, because it
Yeah.
was planned before I was allowed, they just changed
Yeah.
it to another day. But yeah, cool. I remember that. Cool. I forgot all about that, mate.
Yeah.
I
So
forgot. I was like, I don't know if I can get to your wedding, mate.
doing the speech from a cell. Do you know what
Yeah,
I mean?
yes, yeah, on the
Yeah.
FaceTime.
So, yeah. You're like, thanks for a great time, guys.
Yeah,
It's been
me in
a great
shackles.
wedding so far. Yeah. God. But yeah, yeah, that was a worrying time for
Yeah,
everyone,
big
mate.
time.
And yeah, crazy, crazy. But obviously, yeah, just to alliterate, I know you're not a violent person. It's one of them things
No.
that just happened. Do you know
Yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean?
and
And
blokes threaten with cowards, mate. Threaten women,
yeah,
they're
yeah,
cowards. They're not real men.
No.
I just thought I couldn't stand for it. I'd step in again. There's no way a man should hit a woman.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's crazy. It's
yeah,
crazy that that happened, and kind of wrong place, wrong time, and it just
yeah,
it kicked
yeah.
off.
And he
So
made me stop eating my pizza, which I was fuming about as well.
that's was one reason to kick off anyway.
I know. No one interrupts my pizza.
I don't share my food. So you mentioned Andy. Like I coming down a trial day, didn't I
Yeah,
once, and met Andy. What a legend of a guy!
yeah.
He's hilarious.
Proper
So
gentleman.
this is kind of like pulling you out of that negative story about nearly going in jail.
Hmm.
Let's move on to a something funny. So I mean, we've probably all had moments at work where you can't stop laughing, you have to leave a room, because them moments at work
Yeah,
are
I've
priceless.
had many with Andy. Let's just say that.
Yeah. So tell me your funniest moment at work.
Right. So this was when I was working for Paul when he was my mate.
Yeah.
We was on a big job in Hendon, 2 blocks of flats. But I was there for 2 years. It was a big job, and we got to
Yeah.
know the people that were running it, like who we were working for, and
Yeah.
lovely blokes. But one of them, he was a proper Londoner, and the way he talked, oh lads, how's it going, like that kind of talking, and he thought he was the top dog, He gets all the ladies. He didn't. We used to always say he buys his clothes from Baby Gap because they were so tight on him, and so we're walking along one day, and there was obviously the 2 blokes that were running the site, and then the top blokes, and I'm talking these were the top ones that are
Yeah.
walking around with us. They're talking we had to turn the air conditioning.
Do you get that a lot on sites? Just
No, it's
that.
only the big jobs where they want to know what you've done. They've got a clipboard, think they're doing something, but they're not. They
Yeah.
just want to walk around to show that they're busy. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so we're walking
Stand
around.
a bit bitter there, mate. Bit salty.
And we're walking around, and obviously he's trying to make himself like he's the big man. And he's like, yeah, I've been seeing this bird that works here. Yeah, every night she's been round mine. All this, saying
Yeah.
it to Andy, and Andy's just walking with him like, oh really, oh really. And then we get to the top of the ramp, and all the bosses are all standing around. We're like in a big circle talking. He's like, yeah, she was round mine last night. And the last night kind of thing. And
Yeah.
in front of all the massive bosses, really loud, he turned and went, really? I thought you were gay, like that. I'm not joking. Even all the big bosses were literally curled up because they knew
Yeah.
what kind of bloke he was, and he didn't know what to say. He was just like, "Oh, you fucking ginger prick." That's all he could say back. He had nothing else to say. Honestly, I couldn't even look at him. When you're laughing so hard, I literally couldn't breathe. Bloke got ruined. But there was no hard feelings. It was a laugh, and
Yeah.
nothing against obviously gays. It was just the fact that he would have hated to be said that about in front of the bosses. Like these are the
Yeah.
top. Like you couldn't get any higher, and he's just made him look so small in front of him. It was so funny. But yeah, we
How?
used to have some laughs there.
Yeah, yeah. Like I remember you used to come home and share some crazy
Oh,
stories.
like the things. But this, like I said, though, the site managers, we got on from that well because we used to get deliveries, and every time we got deliveries from this company called Green Mills, they used to put sweets inside.
Yeah,
So what they did, they started taking the deliveries in for us so they could nick the sweets. And then we'd get the
yeah,
box and see the boxes open, like, oh, shit, they nicked our sweets. So we went up to their office one day to the top boss who was running the site, and we got hold of his brand new white sneakers. And we tied his shoelace together and put like a double knot so he couldn't undo them, and then drew on the bottom of his shoe, like saying, "Don't nick our
no,
sweets." Just so honestly stupid things like that.
deserved it.
Yeah, but like he nearly got us. He nearly got the sack though, Andy, from doing something really stupid.
Yeah. Did you want? Do you want to share it or?
Well, he can, but he just drew cocks. In these flats are 2.1 million each, and
Yeah.
the walls are just like plasterboard at the moment, nothing else on it. But he was drawing cocks all over them. If he just drew the cocks and that was it, he would have probably got away with it. The fact he drew the cocks and everyone's name who works in the company under each cock, they pretty much knew who it was. So yeah,
Yeah,
that's when all the big bosses come in again, and he wasn't as funny that day.
yeah, which cock isn't there? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but yeah, that was a bit of a frightening time because that could have been me as well. So I saved his job big time that day.
Yeah, I think it's important. Like, obviously, know your boundaries, but like, I think it's important to be able to have a laugh at work, and like kind of that like work bromance or whatever.
Oh, mate,
Like
it was some of the honestly, I could go on for hours for the stories that what he used to do. The funniest things. It
yeah,
was such a funny bloke.
some of them probably not appropriate for
Oh
podcast.
yeah, definitely.
I let the cock one slide. It's fine.
Yeah,
Like, so, but no, like, I think this is what's interesting in terms of this is kind of why I started this podcast in terms of just finding out about people's journeys. And you've shared some really interesting stuff about, that because there'll be people out there in similar positions. So you went labouring, you done scaffolding, you done panel beating
hmm
until you had to find the right job for you to find your niche. Like
yeah,
you've shared some really interesting stuff about being worried about learning, doubting yourself, and then actually just not skipping school, but skipping college and not doing it. And what road could that have taken you down? So, again, I think it's interesting to focus on one, being able to communicate and share how you feel with people and people in that position who are actually going, do you know what? I can't bloody go to college today because I physically don't feel ready to go.
yeah,
And I can't do it. So, one, to speak out, but also two, to not give up
yeah.
on
Think what
what,
you'll get at the end of it.
yeah,
That's what
yeah.
you got to think of.
So yeah, I think you've shared some like, and this is, I don't know what other people going. Well, you're interviewing Mitch. What are you going to talk about? And I'm like, to be honest, I'm going to see how it goes.